Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. So we just have a little clap. It's our signature thing we do at the beginning.
Clap too?
Like a little, yeah.
Perfect.
And you don't?
Nice. Yeah, come on, Sebastian. You're not any better than this. Sweet. So, hey guys, welcome to another episode of Unsigned Berlin. Today we have Jonathan from one half of the Dor Brothers, which is a really...
1/3.
Oh, 1/3?
Exactly.
Oh.
There's a mysterious third brother.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. So one of three Dor Brothers, of the Dor Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And they do some really cool... It's a bit of a different episode today. We have visual artists kind of coming in to talk about the future of AI-generated art. And yeah, we're really excited to dive a little deeper into that. And we have this episode because of Fred Waves.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Who recently worked with you for Sweet Haze, I think was the video.
Yes.
It was a fun project.
Very psychedelic and yeah.
Like most AI animations at this point.
True. Yeah.
So shout out to Fred Waves and thank you guys for giving us the recommendation, and we're super stoked to have you on. So
yeah.
Thank you.
So if we just show briefly the snippet, which would usually be music, but we'll show it.
I might the wall that I got, might have to mix up a pot, leaning that rock, posted with all of me squad, shout out to the life, I'm in my zone, posted like Post Malone, so like Michonne, keeping it close, I don't know what he is on, hope you get shown, trying to be me, you get exposed, you just a clone, what is that scotch, bring me some more.
And that was an example of what you guys do, which is very music oriented. You made over 75 music videos, which is a lot.
Probably even more at this point. I forgot to update the website. Yeah.
And you also offer courses for using, is it Midjourney you're working with? Or?
So it's Midjourney, it's the whole thing. There's a bunch of softwares.
Right.
Stable Diffusion, Gen 2, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's what you guys do as a kind of an overlook. What drew you to music videos as opposed to doing like special effects or doing stock imagery or something like that?
So I'll do a long story short thing. I'm a musician myself.
Tell a long story.
I'm a musician myself. I make progressive metal stuff. And like every progressive metal guy, I have this too much of a big vision for videos, like this fantasy-oriented stuff. So my initial plan was to get somebody to do it for me, and then I realized it would be like 250,000 euros probably to produce,
Right.
And then I just started making music videos myself a few years ago with a camera. And then I said, okay, with a camera, you still need that budget to make a video,
Yeah.
So I started using 3D programs like Unreal Engine, Blender, whatever. And then I just saw this like little video with like 500 views, like make AI images, was like before the whole thing, And then I just started doing that. I remember I showed to my girlfriend a picture. It looked like crap, like just somebody spewed something on the canvas, and this is the most crazy thing I've ever seen. She was like, And then I just rolled, and I did it like 8 to 12 hours a day since then, over a year and a few months.
Wow.
Do you have a tech background, or why did that seem like an option to you?
No, not at all. I used like Unreal Engine for a month or two, and then it's like it gets amazing results, but you sit for like 2 or 3 days to get one scene, and I was like, okay, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
And then I just kept looking for alternatives and just got there,
Yeah. I'm just so fascinated by this whole new world. But when you're doing these videos and you're feeding do you feed the audio through and then it generates through the audio of the video then?
Yeah.
Like so it responds to the audio, right?
Yeah, if you could just give like a kind of a description of how the
process works.
Yeah, how the process works.
So there's an option to do things audio reactive, but it's like an optional thing. It's not really, it just like matches itself to the sound waves. But usually it's more about prompting and all that more boring stuff, and it's just about understanding how to make the visual you want to make with words.
Because the audio reactive stuff, like, I had a friend who was using AI for their music video, and they were doing the audio reactive stuff, and then it depended on like how the BPM of the song, so how fast it was, right? And then like, so do you think that maybe artists are going to change the way they make music based on how AI reacts to it?
No.
No?
I hope not, because the point of making music is it shouldn't be based on something external, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I suppose.
I just thought it was interesting because I think there could be this whole genre of music feeding into AI, like just meant to produce the most interesting images, or just meant to, produce like the most consistent changes, or to make the craziest changes. I don't know. I think there's...
That could be. I mean, I never thought about that. If it's like real time and you just make visuals as you play, probably.
That would also be really cool, especially for guitarists or like
DJs as well.
DJs for a live show.
Or for LSD enthusiasts also.
Or that too. Yeah, exactly. But anyway.
And how have you developed your system of how you prompt and how you curate the visuals? Has it been through just trial and error and like lots and lots of...
So that's the
mistakes?
thing, like a lot of people think there's some secret tricks. And when I have students who come to me, I say that I'm not going to show you like a thing and you're going to be the best in the world. You're just going to... You have to walk a lot, but you have to walk in the right direction, you know what I mean? And I'm saying work, by the way, and not walk, which is something people usually think I say by accident.
And then how much is that per project, starting from... Like if an artist comes to you with an idea, are you starting from kind of a step back and doing trial and error on that individual project as well? Or is it now very much they come to you with an idea and you're like, okay, we know how to do this?
So that's actually the hardest part, because a lot of people also don't understand how it works.
Yeah.
So half of the process with the client is just explaining to him, look, we can't do this 500 things, but we can't do those. And until they get it, that's most of the work actually. And once you like nail them down to what they actually want with what we can do, then it's easy. But it's for example, you saw the Coca-Cola commercial that came out the other day?
No.
So there was this like very intricate Coca-Cola.
Oh, yes, I did, yeah.
It was really a complex commercial with like probably something like a few $100,000 budget for production. And it was called like Coca-Cola AI commercial, but actually the AI was probably like 5 to 10%. But now I have a bunch of people contacting me like, can you do this Coca-Cola with AI? I'm like, yeah, do you have 250,000 euros? You know, we can do that.
So was that then they had the shots and everything and then just punched it up with AI, or?
So they used it a bit for like texturing.
Okay, right.
Like some. Actually, it is good because it's a proof that AI is coming to the VFX industry for reals and not as some amateur thing. But I mean, I think it's better to use it this way in the level it is right now.
Yeah. How much has it changed from an outside view? It seems like it was a thing that was producing stuff you could recognize for a long time, and then recently there's been all the news and everything about it, and then it's transitioned from pretty horrific looking, especially hands and faces that just look ridiculous, to like very recently very good stuff. Has that transition been that exponential, or has it been really steady over time and just hasn't been...
Exponential, but the point is it's not just this step, it's every month, it's like at least double or quadruple as good, you know?
Yeah.
So it's hard also to tell in someone like in my position, like what should we focus on? Because we can now, I tell my whole team, like let's focus on this tool and get good at it, but then it's irrelevant after a week, you know?
Right.
So the only thing we can do is just use whatever comes to you naturally and until it's not relevant anymore.
Do you ever feel like it's burning too hot, like it's like going too fast, or is it really just exciting for the ride?
For me, I don't think it's up to me, so I don't really care. You know what I mean? I'm not creating stuff, so I'm just using them. So like, if it's 50 times faster or slower, I'm having the same amount of fun with the tools. You know.
Interesting, very interesting. And what do you think about real visual artists who are saying like, like don't take away our stuff? Do you think it's entirely separate from humans who create it, or do you feel like there could be potentially a good balance in between,
pen in hand visual artists and visual artists?
I mean, I totally get it, and everything that I would say next will just be like a repetition of something you probably heard. But I think it's the same. Like people rode horses, now they drive cars, right? And you can like be Amish and say, I'm gonna ride my horse because you bastards with cars. But I'm gonna ride the car, I don't.
Yeah.
But for me, okay, we can think about the aspect of copyrights and stealing and all of that, but I see it more as, okay, we can fight between us now over copyrights and petty mine yours, and we can think about the future of the human species and doing holograms with our minds from thoughts, that's what I'm thinking about. I don't care about little whatever trademarks or whatever it is.
How much control do you have over the art that's being fed into the program versus it's just drawing from this massive database that isn't
Extreme
decided?
control, like you just type the name. I found a guy, for example, who has barely like 10,000 followers on Instagram. It recognizes his style,
Right.
and it looks really similar. But most artists say that when you, at least like the really popular good ones, they say that when they look at people using their name, it feels more like a compliment from like a student of theirs than actual somebody stealing the style, you know?
Yeah,
okay.
it's like
More
the
like fan
Grimes-
art or something.
Yeah, like Grimes has
Oh.
had that Elf Tech website going up where you can upload your vocals.
Yeah,
And
she'll
it
do
will-
like as long as you give me 50%, is what she said.
Oh, yeah,
or
Grimes.
Yeah.
Grimes.
Cool.
I really dig her music.
I can understand.
Yeah.
How do you see that mirrored in the visual side of things? Are there artists that are like, yes, you can use my style, or you can use my work as a prompt or a like feeding into the program
Okay,
if
so
we split?
let me I start by saying one thing and then I'll answer that question in a more technical way. So now there was a research paper from Japan when they plugged a group of people into, how do you call it, like electrodes into their brain. And they just showed them a picture and then they said, okay, now we take it off and just imagine it. And they could create a picture from their thoughts.
Right.
Just by thinking about a train, they can create a train with the AI like generator thing. So that's what I'm thinking about. Like
Right.
you see all the sci-fi movies. Sci-fi movies always look like a joke because there's sci-fi movies. But I really think we're gonna have technology where you just like just pull it up and it's just gonna show up here. And that's what I'm thinking about. I think creation will be more of a collective subconsciousness thing than like an individual creation.
Right.
And that's what I'm thinking we're heading as a species. So that's why this whole copyright stuff, it's not up to me to say because I'm the user of the other side of it. So
Yeah.
obviously I'll have this opinion, but for me it's more like, okay, let's look at where we're going as a species than like this mine yours game, you know?
Yeah, it's also been difficult with like what's the difference between AI programs using art that's been fed in and like pen in hand artists having seen work that's inspired them.
So it was Picasso, I think, or Dali that said, what was it, about stealing?
Good artists borrow, great artists steal.
Yeah, that's what he meant, I think. Like, I know you're talented, so obviously, like, I want to be inspired by Tarantino when I make a movie, right? I don't want to be inspired by somebody who... So that's why I think it's the same case here, you know?
I see.
Yeah.
And going back to the study real quick, where they were having the generated images based on the pictures, do you know, like, how realistic people were able to make those images, or how similar those images were to the picture they were shown? But at all?
I can explain, but if you look, it will probably make more sense.
Oh, I
if
see.
you had a Jamie here to pull it up.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But it looked like a blurred version of the original image, like a dreamy.
Dreamy.
thing, yeah.
And then did certain individuals have different colored versions of it, or were they all relatively similar?
So there was one person who probably didn't have a very how do you say it, creative visual
Like a
process, and you can see
visual,
that his pictures looked nothing like the.
Interesting, but maybe they're just more left-brained, or more
I
critical
don't
thinking.
I don't know how to call it, but like less visual in their brain.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah,
could
yeah.
see the results were not very similar, but the rest had like a similarity.
Oh, interesting.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Really cool.
As it gets further away from the kind of dreamy, fuzzy train to more photorealistic things, do you see people, especially artists, coming to you, going for much more photorealistic, like I want a music video that looks like it was made with real people, or still very much the like surrealist look?
I think it obviously depends on the artist, but I think the average person like the realistic stuff more for some reason. It's not my thing, but I think in 2 years we're gonna be able to create really because Midjourney from V1 to V5.1 what we have now, it was a year.
Right.
And now we have Gen 2, which is, I don't know if you saw it, it's like a text to video, you just type and you get a video.
Yeah.
So now that looks kind of like Midjourney V1, V2. So I would assume in a year it will be like Gen 5, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what
my
I was just showing
assumption.
you with the Will Smith eating spaghetti video.
Yeah, so
Oh, God.
Gen 2 is like a slightly better version of the spaghetti. You know?
Oh gosh, ugh, scary. Very scary.
Where do you see this being a really big, like, I think a lot of the fear with various different uses of AI is people's jobs being taken or redistributed. where do you see that happening with visuals? Do you see it much more in like stock imagery being something that's pretty quick to go, stock photographers, or more, I don't know, just open?
So how far should I go in years from now in my
Within
estimation?
maybe like 3 to 5 years, like short,
So
relatively
3 to
short
5,
term.
I think there would just be, okay, first of all, there would be a new tier of people just making their own stuff, but that would still not look as good as something that I would make for them if they hired me with
Yeah.
AI, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then if you take that further, I think the end goal of all this AI stuff is that everything is personalized. And you don't need, like, okay, so you read all the science fiction, 1984, Fahrenheit, whatever.
Yeah.
So in the end, they all estimate that everybody's going to be at home and they're going to have like the entertainment system, you know.
Like-
where I suppose that's where it's going eventually, because the more personalized it gets, the less you rely on somebody else translating the vision that you know perfectly, you know.
Yeah.
So that's where it's ending up, I guess. And it's a bigger question: what's going to happen to all jobs or the internet? Why should we use the internet anymore? You know, like it opens up a lot. I think it's beyond visuals. It's just only God knows. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's why it just seems so daunting a little bit too, especially for maybe older folks or like people who just don't understand this new thing, you know, this new tool. But yeah, I mean, like, what would you say to those people who maybe are kind of scared of where it's going? Do you kind of feel that fear with them a little bit, or would you say like, no, we've got it, you know, it's a tool and we're using it and we have control still?
So I don't think we have control. At all.
Okay.
I don't even think we're safe.
Good to
let's
be
say.
realistic.
I don't think I know anything as well. I'm just a user of this. I just enjoy the ride, you know.
Wow.
So that's my only thing. Like, it's gonna happen the way it happens, and I can cry about it or worry about it or be happy about it. I'm just like, hey, we had internet, now we have AI. Then we're gonna have whatever, and I'm not gonna stop at every phase to like break my mind over and over again. Just like, yeah, okay, now it can do videos.
Okay.
You know, probably in 10 years, people are gonna date robots as well. That's another life-threatening question. I don't know, good, bad, I don't care. You know,
Yeah.
it's just what it is.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Was there a point when you were making these largely for fun, when you were getting going, a point where you thought, this is something I can really sell and people would want to hire me for this?
Immediately, I'm Jewish, you know, so it was my first instinct. So actually, the moment I started using those AI image tools, just like probably 2 or 3 weeks later, I made my first video with it and I put it on Fiverr. And then I was the first person in history to sell an AI video on Fiverr.
No way.
Oh,
Yeah. And then right now we're the first place there because I had such a head start over everybody. So now we have so much more videos than everyone. So we just,
Oh, wow.
we just created it was instant almost because nobody ever saw this they thought it was like some very artistic handmade thing.
Right.
But I disclosed always that it's AI, you know, just using this stuff.
Goodness. That's crazy.
sorry, I had a question and I forgot it.
It's fine. It means you listened, right?
Yeah. It's all just really fascinating, and we're like, just tell us, you know, like, what is this? You
I don't know either. No clue.
When an artist comes to you, usually do they have an idea in mind already that's like fully formed, and then you kind of have to be like, okay, this is what we can do? Or are they like, I just want something that has the aesthetic of AI with the kind of strangely moving lines and stuff? What do you think would be cool?
So it really depends. Like people are different. I much prefer a person with a vision, because otherwise, why are we making this if you don't have a vision? You know, I can do cool. I think if there's no idea, then nothing works, right?
Yeah.
Because you can have the most expensive, whatever, Avengers 75, but if there's no idea to the movie, then it's just a bunch of people doing stuff. So I prefer the clients with a vision, but the sad truth is that a lot, they just like, make something good, you know? But so we work with that, and it also gives us the creative freedom to, okay, let's
have fun.
Just give us some direction that we can go in, and we're gonna figure it out, you know?
Yeah, and the freedom to maybe try something new.
Yeah,
And
but
just-
that's also a problem.
Yeah.
Some of the times.
When did you involve your partner, who is your brother or a friend that is
My
like
brother.
part of- yeah.
We started together, so we made music videos in Berlin just with a camera.
Mm-hmm.
We just ran around with like this cheap gimbal trying to take to rotating stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then he moved back to Israel and he's shooting there now. And I just went all into the AI stuff, but now sometimes we have clients in Israel that he shoots the video and then I do the AI on top of it.
Wow.
Right.
And then the third mysterious person is my sister when she's a mastermind. She's just very smart with people and marketing and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
How much have you explored other AI tools, like language models or like audio things or anything like that?
I use it every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I made a geeky goal for myself to just use ChatGPT instead of Google
Right.
90% of the time. Or
Yeah, so
95%.
ChatGPT is just fascinating.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Do you use
Yeah.
it?
No.
Yeah,
Haven't-
researching
yeah.
for academic papers is so much easier,
I can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
but then it's not reliable. So
No, so
Yeah.
but that's
Yeah.
okay. So my point is, I just make myself a rule that every time I have like something in my head and my instinct is to go to Google, just start from ChatGPT
Mhm.
and I get used to this because I think the future. I don't think we'll have Googles anymore. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
And is that because it's so much more intuitive, or I'm new to this? I think a little bit more.
So for example, if I just break it down easily.
Sure,
So
that'd be great.
I bought a second-hand PC from someone yesterday.
Yeah.
And then I could look on Google, like, what do you have to check? Which program should I benchmark on his PC, blah, 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 to know that it's functioning? And I can do it on Google now and go through forums, and this guy has one opinion, this guy has the other, blah, blah, blah. And then I just ask ChatGPT, and it tells me you have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, this is the software name, check that this temperature is reached, do this. And I'm just like, okay, just like a parrot, you know? I just check what he says and
No way.
fulfill my orders.
Oh my gosh! Wow. So it's like when our grandparents are like, we used to go to the library and check out books.
Yeah.
We'll be like, we used to have to type it into Google and look through Reddit.
So I think
Reddit forums.
I think actually the piece of art that captured the future the best is Wall-E. Just everybody fat on the thing.
That's so scary, though. Oh,
think that's the case.
That scares me so much. Oh, yeah, I don't know about that.
Or it's kind of utopian, maybe, for the people involved. They seem pretty happy with
So-
their big smoothies.
So Stephen
The big
Hawking.
smoothies I could get down with. I like a big smoothie.
So what
like
can't you
that.
get down with?
Like if people in the like chairs with
The floating
screens
chairs.
around them.
So that's where you draw the red line. Floating
No, I
chairs.
just, ugh, I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
Just-
There's something about it.
it's
that's
just
like,
very
I think
depressing.
this reaction you just had, I think people would have it about us.
Oh yeah, probably.
And I think it's
Yeah.
just endless chain. Like,
Yeah,
you know, like,
I bet.
I think 3 years ago me would have had that about
Yeah,
the amount that I
probably.
use TikTok, which isn't even that
Yeah.
much. But
Yeah, oh yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
how much has the development of visual AI tools been put into stuff that already exists? Like ChatGPT is something separate to where Bing is trying to put in their own language model, or recently there was a podcast editing tool on, I think, Premiere. How has that been on, for example, you said you used Blender or Unreal Engine?
So that's the only thing I'm actually hoping for, because the problem with AI is that you lack a certain amount of control, because there's the random element that you rely on it to make you what you want and you have to search for it. But if you have AI integrated into Unreal Engine, you can just type like, make me a scene of 2 Roman gods fighting in an arena, and then it just generates it, and then you can move the camera inside of it. So I'm waiting for this integration between some 3D program to prompting, you know? Because all AI is supposed to do is just cut the amount of black work that you're doing, like the tedious, annoying things.
Yeah. Has that started at all, or is it just like probably going through all the steps of meetings and stuff at the Adobe headquarters?
So I heard that big companies, they have this regulatory thing where they always wait 12 to 24 months or something before
But
they
then
really-
everything is gonna be way ahead.
Yeah, so now I think a lot of companies are improvising their asses off, and they're like, yeah, this is the best AI tool, and there's just some guy programming it as you speak. You know?
Oh my gosh.
But
Crazy.
so there's something called Spline that I saw, which is interesting. It's basically this: you just type like, make me a star and make it spin, and then it spins, and you just tell it what to do instead of like making a shape and shaping it and like rotating. But on the other hand, the CEO of Nvidia, the company, he said that he thinks that every pixel will be generated. That's what he said.
How do you every pixel generated? Can you explain that further? I didn't know.
So every pixel generated means everything will be AI created. Like why would you
take a picture?
Why would you now open a 3D program and do VFX if you can just like generate it? You know what I mean? Or like a movie. We don't know. Obviously, real actors will be hard to replace for a long time.
Yeah, because of the inhuman.
The human, but also a question: how long until it becomes human, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, but like even with photography, would it just replace? Like it would just replace it.
Do you know what photography replaced?
Well,
paintings, I guess.
Painting, yeah.
So Rembrandt,
no way.
They used so oil painters. They really hate, I don't know, oil or whoever it was in that phase, but they really hated photographers because they spent their whole life like perfecting the light and getting. But then some guy comes and clicks.
They did the tedious work, and then the tedious work was
and it's
replaced
just an endless
by
chain.
film.
You know what I mean? Until we're all on the floating sofa. That's where it ends.
But then also the old thing just changes. It doesn't disappear. Like people still paint.
Yeah, and people still do. I mean, like film photography has come back like crazy, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
so
I couldn't care less
to...
about a photorealistic painting, but there's lots of paintings that are like interesting in their own way.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you feel like there's any real gaps in AI generated art that just really can't replicate what someone would draw?
So it's the specific things which is the problem. Like let's say now you want a guy holding this specific item that you want, doing this really specific action that's not very popular. Like go describe that to an AI, you know. But then you can in-paint and do it. But then it becomes a bit more traditional, you know, when you like take an extra step. But in the end, I think the ultimate thing for everybody will be some mix of tools and not just this or just that.
Yeah.
But if you,
No, you go.
But if you were to make that very unusual like image with that very unusual action and then feed it into, okay, I'm speaking from not a lot of knowledge here, and feed it into like the database that is used to generate this, would it then be easier to produce an image like that in the future because there's a reference for that action? So
it's called training models.
Okay.
So for example, if now I take 30 pictures of this room and I call it whatever.
Unsigned Berlin studio.
I call it like
/ my apartment.
/ apartment.
Yeah.
Then if I type it, it will just show up, you know.
There you go.
It's part of the, and then I can say like, make me X in the style of whatever. So it's just training models.
I see. Okay.
And the future, again, I'm talking, so NVIDIA now, they figured out a way to do everything 30 times faster, which is a lot faster.
Yeah.
Which means that the moment you press enter, it exists. So the assumption is that everything will be real time. Like if you're having a presentation, you don't prepare it. You just talk and it shows up as you're talking, you know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What do you think has been the big change from when you were first starting with the first thing you put on Fiverr, which was, I mean, like trained AI models have been around a long time, but the massive change between then and now, what do you think has been the big thing that just like switched it on to move fast? If there was one thing, or if it's just been lots of little.
I think the biggest explosion actually was around this summer, right? When everybody started talking about it. It came hand in hand with ChatGPT 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Midjourney, it only started looking impressive from like V4, which was a few months ago.
Right.
That's where I think like the mainstream audience started to jump.
Yeah. Do you know what the behind the scenes difference in terms of the program and how it works was there?
I mean, as I said, I'm not a tech guy at all. I just I consider myself an artist. I just enjoy the tools, you know.
Yeah. So how much do you feel like you have to change the way that you do your prompting for each model that comes out?
So most of them are based on the same foundation most of the time. So it's usually a tweak and not like a relearning of the whole science. You're looking at the shirt.
Oh, no, I was just looking at the back of the mic because it looks different than ours. But sorry.
But the shirt is also yours, your generated
your project.
thing.
Oh, wow.
It's also super easy these days, but you just have software that do it for you, you know.
Right. So you do have, I mean, you have to change a little bit. How clear are the companies that provide the products?
Not at all.
Like, so you just
they
have
just
to
release stuff and like you know. But I mean, they give us everything, you know. Especially the open source stuff. They just give people to tweak it.
And you probably find some interesting new things through that you wouldn't have if they were very clear of like, oh, this is the new phrasing that we like.
I think they don't know themselves. I think that's the
Right.
point. They have no clue how it works. To be honest, they say that also a lot of times. They're like, we think it works this way because that's the thing with AI. It's just it's teaching itself all the time. So they need to figure out what it's learning.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's craziness. And depending on which AI tool you use, do you think that in the future different artists will seek out different AI generating companies based on their genre at all? Like, do you think there will ever be like genre specific, like with what you do, you guys did, you guys have done a lot of different music videos, but then with Fred Waves and the psychedelic nature of that, like, would that be a trademark, or do you think it's all going to be everything, all possibilities, no specialization, really?
So,
like, with different companies offering this now and in the future, will there be like specialties of the AI they generate, or is it all just going to be?
I assume it's the same with any other form of art. Like every director will have their style naturally.
Yeah.
Even if you don't try, you just have the style, So I think like you have Universal Studios or X or Y or Z. It's gonna be the same case with AI. I'm aiming to be the A24 Studios.
I like A24 a lot. Yeah,
It's my goal.
I was just watching a video about their whole evolution, and it's like so interesting.
You should send it to me.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, it's like crazy how they're the only. Is it video production like company distribution? Well, they started as a distribution company, but like they sell their own merch, which is like so ahead of every other studio.
I think that's the thing about the modern world, that the more you disconnect from the traditional corporized structure, the more freedom you give yourself. You know what I mean? It's just, why not do that? I was also thinking about music. So I'm recording an album, and I thought, okay, albums, like, nobody sits to listen to more than 20 seconds of a song. So why not just release songs like a TV show, and just do like an episode per month or two, and don't think about like, okay, here's my album, just like, here's a new episode, make a teaser for it, I don't know.
Yeah, the single, like, it's very common now to just do singles, or if you're releasing an album, do it a single at a time, which I hate as a consumer, but is better because people will go to your profile more often.
What was the last time you listened to a whole album?
I listen to them a lot.
Like yesterday.
But also with like very specifically into music. Most people don't care enough.
But what the average person, what do they tell you? Spotify, right? It's just random shuffle, playlists. Yeah.
It's so funny though, because even the people who are like the least music nerdy have so much more music knowledge than the most nerdy music person back only years ago. Like the access, exactly, the access we have.
Which is also, so I'm talking about AI all the time, but I think it's in general where we're heading. That's why everything will be so personalized, because now everything. Also, I watched a video about why there's no rock stars anymore. Like you don't have this.
They don't
guy.
have the big.
Because everything's getting separated.
Exactly.
I mean, you have your little streams of people like this and that, and there's not like one Elvis Presley or something that everybody listens to, because there's more music.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Do you know about any advancements in the way of like live generation? So, for example, Spotify has the AI DJ, which, as far as I know, no one uses, but it's an interesting concept.
I didn't know it exists.
Hey, this is your Spotify DJ. I've used it.
I have to cut you off for a second, because I found the creepiest thing the other day. It's a website called Forgetify, and it's just a Spotify playlist of songs that nobody ever played.
Yeah, because there's like thousands.
Apparently, 30% of Spotify has never played songs.
Yeah, it's weird.
They've never songs that have never been heard by.
No, so you're the first person to click play on the track, and it just randomizes all of them. It's super weird, and you're like, what the hell is this?
That is
cool,
freaking awesome.
Yeah. That's what I listen to. Like, but then you're like some random guy doing like polka dancing music. What?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I'm really interested in generative music as well. Like, I have this. There's this guy called Alex Bainter who makes like a slowed and reverbed generator, and then also makes like a generative music thing where if you click on the screen, it'll generate like a musical sequence on piano, and every time you can never fully replicate it. Like, so it's never been, the combination has never been heard before. Do you think that model of like, oh, this has never been heard before, or this combination has never been, combined before, is going to be a part of that personalization thing?
What do you think is going to happen to music with AI?
I think sync licensing, which is basically stock imagery for music, is very quickly out the door. It's like if a film, if you're making a film and you're like, oh, I want a song that kind of like sounds like brand new or like ambient music, either I can pay an artist for it or I can just get it AI generated for much cheaper. So I think that's very quick to go. And then in terms of like more longer term, it's really hard to...
What do you think about like the real essence of music, like a song? Would it be popular AI songs?
Oh, for probably.
I think yes. I think that pop music, definitely there'll be a big thing.
It's kind of AI generated already in a way. No?
Yeah, it's like very formulaic, and it's not so important that you're having like this real human connection with pop music because it just sounds
it's
like...
just something you play.
Yeah.
I've heard people say that there's going to be artists and then the AI version of the artist. So it's going to be
The
this
Grimes
like,
thing.
Yeah.
right. So
But I
that
think-
would be cool.
And a
though.
lot of times the AI one will be even better than the original in some sense, you know?
God, I hope
were-
not. I mean, or maybe I hope
You saw
so,
the
depending
Drake
on the
song
artist.
with the winter thing.
I felt like that was a bit better.
That was not bad.
Yeah. But I think there's a real connection that people have to artists, whether it's someone playing a guitar or someone prompting an AI program, that is not replicatable yet. And it's really hard to say like in 20 years or something. But for now, I think there's a connection of, oh, this is a really individual experience. It's not one that other people have had, not one that I've had, but I like hearing about it from an artist. That I think that falls into that category where it's really hard to make that through a learning model because there's nothing to learn from.
But isn't that what you do when you write a song? You grew up on Led Zeppelin and Queen or something,
And you
just
replicate
you mix them
what you-
in your brain. You know what I mean?
There's, yes, and also from songwriting, but I think there's also usually the songwriting, like the lyrics is often about a personal experience. And also there is an element of like, oh, this is something that, because I'm as a person trained kind of similarly on just a really weird selection of stuff that I probably shouldn't have heard because some guy was playing it on the U-Bahn with his headphones too loud, that I think it will take a very long time until you can communicate the human experience well enough for that to be fed through.
But then again, I feel like a lot of songwriters write about things or situations they've never been in themselves, and it makes really cool
But that makes
music.
cool. Give me an
Music.
example of one of those.
Well, I do that all the time, but I don't know. I feel like
There's,
I feel
How
like
do you
it's,
write a song about
for
something you
example,
didn't
if in an artist camp, right? You know, for the big artists, which I guess are not so popular anymore, they're not writing their own music. So who knows if they've gone through that experience or not? Because it's all a group of songwriters writing the song for them. You know, they're not. You know, the big Ariana Grandes are not always writing their own songs. You know,
Mostly not.
so maybe they aren't even going through those experiences. So anyway, I feel like, I don't know. I mean, I think maybe they're not going to replace songwriting, but I think remix culture is also going to, or like remixes are going to be huge. Like, you know, like if you really like a song, like I have songs that I'm like, damn, I love this so much, but I get sick of it if I listen to it too much. If you have another version of it, slowed, reverbed, nightcore, remix, acoustic version.
So that's a really good point because imagine this with movies. Like let's say Game of Thrones, just make it again from season 5 until the end. You know, I like this version better.
Yeah.
And maybe it's better than the original, but it needs the heart of the original to understand what it's trying to do. You know.
We like those references, right? Where there are these cultural things where we need to have known them previously in order for the thing to make sense.
But that's the question, because if now you made Game of Thrones remix, so now it exists, so it doesn't. So people always say like AI is based on existing data, but if it's always creating data, it's just doing what humans do. It replicates what it knows, and it has its own personal experience.
Yeah.
So I don't see why we need more input, because the new output is already input. If you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A little thought thing. It's just random, but imagine like in the future you have ChatGPT integrated in everything you do. It's like your personal assistant, it's your doctor, it's your Google search, it's whatever. It comes with you to the U-Bahn, it listens, it knows. Why couldn't he write a song? Because it lives through most of your experience, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah, I think also, long term for looking at visual art or music, looking at it more as a passion project that isn't as financially viable, but doesn't need to be, because the effectiveness of companies and just people in general has been heightened so much through this. Kind of like the way people have a lot more time on their hands now that computers do a lot of the work.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
Also for movies too, like we were talking about earlier.
The volume, you mean?
Well, or at least like I've heard that maybe in the future you'll go to a movie and then there will be multiple outcomes of each scene.
Nice.
So people will go back to the movie to see a different way it ended or a different way that the scene went.
Like Netflix tried with Bandersnatch. There was like a kind of a what's the expression? Choose your own adventure type of movie where you could,
that kind of thing, but maybe a little bit more like you would go back to see this, like, or your friend would be like, I went to I saw this version versus, I don't know.
For me, that would win it for me, I think, because, okay, so a totally different topic, just general artistic topic.
Yes,
I'm much more into because it's and in the end it all ends in philosophy, you know, if we get there.
Yeah.
So, unpopular opinion in Berlin, I'm not a big fan of conceptual art, just because I feel like, because like I prefer if, Tool, for example, the band, like they said, they wrote, the riffs are really complex to play, to think of, to write, and it all makes sense together, and they perfected their craft to bring you this like hardened diamond, you know. But then there could be a conceptual guy who's like Gigi Hadid, what's his name, you know what I mean? Aline, this guy who shits on the stage and throws it on people, you know.
Oh, okay. I know who you're talking about. But
and this is art, you know, because that's how he expresses himself. But it's just, I much more appreciate the perfectionism of like a Tarantino movie or something, that he really goes through the notes and understands why this fits here and why this character says A and why this character says B. Yeah. And this, to me, like this remixing thing, it feels more conceptual because there is no one movie, so how can I judge it or like understand it, you know, because it's not a finished product, it's just something forever remixable.
Yeah. Ooh, really cool. Yeah, it gets very philosophical really fast too, especially with like, oh, what's the future going to be like? It's scary, but
it's the only question we have left.
Yeah, that's yeah, very true.
What are you excited to explore with projects going forward in this world of visual AI generated art?
So the moment there's a proper text to video, image to video, or like a 3D AI tool available, I'm just never gonna leave my house again. That's what I'm waiting for. Just whenever that thing drops, I'm good. I'm set for life.
What have you been working with so far in terms of text to video? Has it been text to video or has it been image to video? Or, for example, the Fred Waves project, which was not photorealistic.
That's video to video, usually.
So you're inputting a video of, for example, him rapping or singing, and then prompting it with a description of what you want, and then it generates the...
Yeah, it's like stylizes the source footage. So to answer your question, it's a mix of everything always. In every project, you just mix everything you got to figure it out.
Yeah, it's similar to music production.
Yeah, for sure.
Where it's like you record stuff live and then use machine drums or whatever.
What do you do in music when you reach a season when just like you want to finish a song? Okay, so my problem is that I write a lot of songs in the same time, like most people, I suppose. Like you have then I really want to finish the song, but it just
doesn't feel right.
So what do you do about it?
Sometimes just don't. And then come back 6 months later.
So that's what I did. I took 1.5 years break. That's a long break. And then I came back, So what, you just wait forever?
Show it to someone else?
Yeah.
And say, do you want to work together or do feedback? Similar
to the randomness of AI, I use Ableton, which has a lot of randomness tools built in that you can just kind of chuck it some stuff and see what it does with it. And then maybe catch something that's nice.
Is that cheating?
I think
lots of people would say,
But is that cheating with yourself? I guess.
I don't feel like it's cheating because I think, personally, I feel like what I'm selling as a musician is my taste, not my ability to play. Because a lot of the time, even if I play an instrument, I'll go back and change it a little bit. Like it won't really be the raw like performance. I'll go back and edit the EQ, or I'll change the timing a little bit, so it's just what I want, which is also cheating, I guess, but it's to taste, which maybe that's a very producer outlook and not so much...
No, I mean, that's what think that's a very popular
Yeah.
opinion.
So you know the Pro Tools debate with the quantizing thing.
The quantization.
Yeah.
Not
So they
specifically.
said so Pro Tools, they said that's what killed rock and metal music
Right.
because it was the first like software to
Oh, okay,
quantize, and then everybody
Mhm.
started being like, and the whole point of like, fuck it, we go to the garage and we get what we get.
Yeah.
But then suddenly this thing came and everything was like this
Mhm.
perfectly tidy, so that there's nothing rock about it. It's
Yeah.
no metal.
That's interesting because I think of Pro Tools as the only DAW where
it's
where
hard
there's
to-
actually like more freedom in terms of
Timing.
BPM and timing.
It's just because it's not good. Like the quantization features and the BPM features are not built in well enough that it's easy to use compared to Ableton or Logic, I think.
No, I guess I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying like with Logic or Pro Tools, it automatically kind of snaps everything, and the BPM as you can, especially in
Reload,
Ableton, as you
yeah,
change the
Logic or
BPM, the song will get faster and it'll change everything, and it gets kind of, especially in Logic, it gets kind of messy. It's less intuitive than Ableton, but with Pro Tools, it's like you can just turn the metronome off and just record because it's all just start to
You
finish.
can do the same with the other ones.
You can, but it kind of can mess up the audio depending on if you I don't know. It's
Yeah.
interesting. Like
No, I think
But-
you're right in the terms of like it's easier to do that in Pro Tools, and in like Ableton you have to get your settings right before doing that because it will fuck it up otherwise.
true. Anyway, sorry,
Yeah.
maybe tangent, but
Important one.
But now I feel like a lot of my time is spent making sure it's not quite perfect.
But that's okay. So that was my philosophical debate about
Yeah.
music lately. Because I sit down and I'm on my computer, and it's like you're this little guy in a container building inside one container on your little PC, like doing your.
Yeah.
How is that like? Where's the life? You know, I think the life is supposed to be like this fuck it element. Let's go. You know, like music should be intuitive, but I think that's disappearing more and more. And I'm trying to understand how do I go back to this. Like primal way to make music, you know?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways people have done that. There's like Mac DeMarco is like probably the most well-known lo-fi artist, where it's just like kind of intentionally a little bit bad, where it just doesn't sound as crisp as digital.
People like that. They like this dissonance
Exactly,
feeling.
yeah. And like he will record normally and then put it on tape and then like slow it down so it's like kind of like it's not quite right. Or there's production like JPEG Mafia, where it's like very destructive in the moment of just like moving quickly and just like making decisions. And I think that's more of a hyperpop inspired approach.
yeah.
Do you see that relating to AI in terms of people really love the sound of digital when it first came out, and now people are trying to move away from it, and people really love the sound of analog because it's kind of there's an ongoing cycle of we love this because it's new, we hate it because it's what everything is, and now we like it because it's the old thing. If that makes sense. Do you see that happening with AI?
But I go again in a more general view. I think the problem with all technology that's, I guess, forever, or that the better it gets, the more you get, what's the word? Demorphatized? How do you say it? Like the more, the less.
Desensitized?
Also, but like when your muscles atrophy, you know what I mean? Like when there's no need for you, so you just everything like slowly you lean into this wall-y bed.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, because the creative process is is an uncomfortable process. It
should
sucks.
be. But if AI just helps you all the
but then
time-
it's only comfortable. Then making music is like only a comfortable process.
And that's the point. Like music, in my opinion, should be rebellious, right? And if it's perfectly controlled by an external influence, then it's not
Yeah.
music. It's just some nonsense.
Especially when you describe like being locked in a box within a box, and you're just like playing guitar.
How is that
And
metal?
slaving
How is that
over-
rock? Like you're just this little creature making sound into a little thing, you know? That's why FX Twin was so popular, because he was this guy, but he made this dissonant, like fuck this box music, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Do you see that appeal to like old, not that great things happening in AI generated imagery, where at some point people will be like, let's use Midjourney 1 or 2 just because it looked horrible. but
Probably
it's cool.
the same as somebody would say, like, let's use a retro camera from the 70s to shoot like a cool scene that looks retro, you know?
Yeah.
Have you had people come to you with that already in mind, where they're like, I really liked the weirdness of this?
So there's actually a high percentage of people who like the old Midjourney because it had this more weird style. Because now it's getting more perfect, you know, and that's also it's part of this discussion. So yeah, there are people like this.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, we just did 50 minutes, coming up on an hour. Is there anything you want to promote or to explain to people what you provide as a company or a service? Just anything you want to say to the people before we finish it off?
Or also, if people want to get more involved in AI-generated art,
So I guess
ways they can.
the main thing is just the Dor Brothers is a website, but I'm more interested if there's anybody in Berlin who wants to make something. I like creating things, especially if it's a physical thing, like in a space or a physical product or whatever. That's what I'm.
Okay.
So anybody, whatever it is, if somebody wants to get in touch.
Nice.
Ooh, very cool.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Woohoo.
Cool.